and welcome to Interfaith Connections. I am your host, Jackie Fuller. Today we have in the studio Roy Speckhardt. He is the Executive Director of the American Humanist Association, and he is also my former supervisor as the internship coordinator at the Interfaith Alliance. And it's such an honor to have him on the program today. Thank you, Roy, for coming on the show.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Great,
yes.
Great, thank you. Now, first question, can you share with our audience some background information about yourself?
Oh, sure. Well, I guess I've been involved in activism for a little over 20 years now, since before the Interfaith Alliance even, when I did some fundraising for nonprofit causes, environmental and things like that. But Interfaith was really where I got involved in a serious way and stayed there for half a dozen years till 2001, where I started working more in the cause of humanism, which certainly overlaps a lot with what Interfaith Alliance does, dealing a lot with supporting church-state separation issues and things like that. And eventually they put me in charge there, and I've been doing that kind of work of late.
Okay, and with the association, is that member-based or is it more advocacy-focused, since you mentioned that?
Well, it's a little both, I guess. You know, we have about 29,000 members and supporters around the country, and we have local groups too, about 180 of those scattered around the country. And they're very interested in activism. They want us to be out there doing stuff for them in the political realm, in the legal realm, just in the public square, just raising a voice for a humanist perspective on issues that matter to them. And so we try to do a lot of that.
Okay, and for our audience who may not be familiar with the term humanist, can you explain what that is?
To be a humanist simply means being good without a God. Really, it's trying to do something better for yourself and for society, but not relying on ancient texts or divine guidance for doing that. That's kind of how Kurt Vonnegut saw it. He was our honorary our president for many years, and helped us get our footing in that area.
Okay, and what are your goals and missions with the association?
Actually, it's really broad-ranging. So humanism, is a way of looking at life that kind of takes into account reason and empathy, from which we get compassion and the sense that we're all equal on this earth. But when you apply those kind of principles to the world around you, you can have positions on just about everything under the sun. And so we do work on lots of causes, from supporting LGBT rights to peace work to trying to do efforts to stop genocide to really all across the board types of matters. Although I have to admit that church-state separation issues, the idea of the First Amendment, keeping that sound is part of what we do in a big way, because it's a little bit of self-defense as well as trying to uphold proper American values. Okay,
I have an example I want to share with you. In the polls and research, they're saying more Americans now are becoming atheists, humanists, or what they're referring to as nuns, not identifying with any particular reason. Do you have an opinion on why that is taking place, I guess, in recent times?
It's true. I mean, the numbers have been going up, especially since late 90s. And I don't think it's just because I got involved. I think there are a lot of other factors involved. I think some of the authors have played a big role. People like Sam Harris and Richard Dawkins, who've gotten involved and kind of spurred up the movement. But I also think that having somebody in office like George W. Bush, for so long, really wakened people up to the idea that they didn't want a fundamentalist kind of strongly conservative version of religion speaking for all religion. They wanted a more diverse approach. And so I think that the people who didn't have religion or were atheists or agnostics especially stepped up and said, gosh, we've got to tell people we're here, because there's a lot of us. And there turns out there are millions and millions. So, yeah.
Now, for you personally, did you come from a faith tradition, or have you always been kind of the humanist, or on your own kind of way of being and doing and living? How did you come to humanism?
Well, I was raised in a Catholic tradition, although it was just upstate New York a little bit, and it was a very liberal Catholic environment. And so at first it was the idea that, you know, this Catholicism doesn't exactly fit for me with my experience and what I've learned about the world. So maybe I'm not exactly a Catholic. And then, well, maybe I'm not exactly a Christian. And then, well, maybe I'm not exactly religious after all. So it was a bit of a slide where I realized that it didn't fit with what I kept learning about the broad diversity of the world, and finding out that, you know, our faiths to some degree are a geographic accident of where we're born and how we're born, and realizing that, well, there can't be one true path, because that doesn't make sense given the, you know, billions of people on Earth. And so that just helped move me along this path toward humanism.
Okay. Now, with diversity, what has it been like in your experience with your work dealing with different age groups, genders, as well as race and culture in regards to identifying identifying themselves as a humanist? Are they growing in certain demographics? How does your association support people who want to learn more about humanism from those diverse audiences or communities?
Right. Oh yeah, I mean, that we're seeing especially lately as the numbers are growing. I mean, the American Humanist Association has been around since 1941, but really for much of that time it was kind of an old white, stodgy kind of operation in some ways, in that it viewed itself as sort of a philosophical club rather than an activist organization, rather than a group that's applying basic positive philosophy that everybody could understand and appreciate. And I think that that's something that helped broaden the circle of who is interested in it, and also where it comes from. Those early days, it kind of had a philosophical base in the Enlightenment, and the idea that you had to come through some European path to get to the idea that, of course, it doesn't make any sense if you look at the basic assumptions of humanism. Right. And so today, it's a lot more diverse. Okay. And I think that people coming from different communities do face different challenges because of the particular religious backgrounds that come with being part of an ethnic or even just gender choice, you know, things like that.
Yeah, because I was curious to know, particularly within African American communities, which is so rooted in Christianity. But now you think about Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston, they're humanists, but you don't really hear that as much. So I was always curious from like those perspectives.
Yeah, I mean, historically, there's been a lot of you know, African American folks who've been involved in humanism from the early days. I mean, Richard Wright. I mean, people who have connections to that kind of ideology and thinking, but it's not been part of this movement until just recently. I mean, I think it's a real opening of doors for opportunities that we never thought of initially, but we really should be taking advantage from the beginning and are doing so more now.
Okay. Now, with young people and students, and particularly students, how are they getting more involved in this movement? And I guess also, how are young professionals taking this in with humanism and being involved in that work?
I think a lot of people are coming in through social media. So the American Humanist Association has, you know, 330,000 people following us on Facebook, you know, tens of thousands on Twitter and things like that. And I think, you know, young people today getting their information about news and about what's going on through the social media, we're providing an outlet for that. Outlet for communications with us, and we're learning from them just as much as they're learning from us. And so that's helping us direct our strategies as we go forward, and what types of issues we can take on, and how to take those on in a real sensitive way that addresses the issues of the people involved. So it's been a good experience getting more young people involved, absolutely.
And are there student groups with your association?
Our group in particular, we work real closely with the Secular Student Alliance, and they're just so terrific. And so we're happy to work with them and encourage students to form Secular Student Alliance groups on their campus, of which there are, I think, over 400 of now. And so, and then connect with us through that. And our community groups try to interact real closely with the student groups so that we can share resources and ideas.
Okay. Now with families, I'm very curious, has your organization dealt with, I guess, a family that has maybe a secular and faith component, like intermarrying, or even just as a humanist family in general? How do you provide support, or how does your organization do that for those communities? How do you do that type of outreach?
We're trying to do more for families. This is an area that, again, we've traditionally not done the kind of work we should have been doing, perhaps. But now, as the communities are becoming more robust, of course, families have needs that need to be considered. And we have a Kids Without God website that tries to give some basic information and videos and easy to digest stuff that's geared towards kids and teens. We have materials for doing kids programs at the local level and encourage our 180 groups around the country to use these programs so that kids and families who are coming to groups can feel welcome and become part of the community. I think that's a real important part of how to do that.
Okay. Now, also, when you mentioned public policy, and I know your organization was involved with Hobby Lobby, the Hobby Lobby issue.
Right.
Can you explain, like, when situations like that happen and your organization has a voice, what is that whole process like, and what has been the response?
Well, you know, it's been mixed. The courts, of course, at the federal level, haven't been very good for us. Hobby Lobby, you know, opening the door up for corporations to declare a religion, essentially, as a corporation, and then discriminate against people based on that exemption that is allowed for religious exemption for discrimination. I mean, it opens the door for all sorts of discrimination issues, and we're very critical of that, right. And we hope that the courts will see a better way of looking at it in the future. And we've been involved in it. I've spoken on congressional briefings regarding that issue, and we've tried to put out our statement to the courts through amicus briefs and things like that. We also engage in direct litigation. In fact, we recently had a big victory with the Air Force, who decided that they were going to allow recruits and re-enlistment folks to leave off the "So help me God" part of the oath. Right. And we had talked to them and said, why are you not allowing our person to re-enlist? And they were reticent to comply, but then right the day before we were going to file our suit, they said, we'll take those words out. And so we're in good shape there. And so sometimes we have the wins and sometimes not so much.
So what are your key successes? Can you share those with us, give examples? And that would not give us one. Yeah,
that one is a specific one, but in general, we're seeing mostly successes at the courts. When we bring our cases, we're sensitive to the fact that at the federal and Supreme Court levels, they're not necessarily inclined to support our viewpoint, so we're bringing the cases instead at the state level as much as we can, where courts are much more interested in a fairer, juster opinion. And I don't think this happened by accident, by the way. When George W. Bush was in office, he broke with previous presidents and stopped appointing people to the federal bench who were from diverse religious backgrounds. And he appointed pretty much exclusively conservative evangelical Christians and ultra-conservative Catholics to the bench. I don't think there were any exceptions to that rule with all of his appointments. And so that kind of skewed the courts against us on this issue and church-state separation issues and First Amendment issues in general. And so it's been a struggle there, but so we've taken the state courts as our path. And it's been, on the whole, we've done well with getting people to recognize that things like religious monuments to veterans, a case we had in California where they were going to put up a new monument where had a soldier kneeling before a cross. And we thought, well, you know, that doesn't represent everybody. Right. And so we won that case. And we've been winning our cases where religion has been intruding into the public sphere in a way that is inappropriate, we thought.
Okay. Now, with your interfaith work, can you share with us why does the Humanist Association see that as an importance to be involved with?
Oh, absolutely. We're a real small minority. We talk about we're growing, and it's true, we're growing, and we have millions of people, and we represent, it's hard to say depending on the numbers, but 10, 15, 20% of the country. But that's still a minority by any stretch of the imagination. And if we want to get things done, we need to work together with people of like mind. And we share on the issue, when I talked about how humanism addresses nearly every issue under the sun, most of those issues, we share the same perspective as our progressive religious allies. Okay. And so we've got to work together in interfaith communities if we want to get things done in a political sphere, and even in the community sphere, if we want to have a comfortable arrangement where people can get along in a positive way.
Right.
You know, we can't exclude ourselves as
Right.
if we're some separate entity.
Yeah, because that's the thing I want to ask too. Because you may have some who are like passionate about it, but sometimes it's hard to connect with some of the interfaith organizations to do that work, especially if they're not inviting you in.
Right.
Then you will have the other side who are humanists or atheists, and they're saying, well, why are you there? You're
Right.
an atheist, you're a humanist. That's not what you're supposed to be.
You're right.
So
I mean, there really is these two sides
Right.
within us. You know, within the American Humanist Association, we represent both people who are somewhat anti-theistic and or say, why would we get involved with religion? Although that's a minority of our group for sure, as well as a small group who would say, you know, why would you even mention the word atheist? You know, like you should stick with positive terms and positive ways of looking at it and work only with religious groups on this, that, and the other. And so trying to bring that together under a big tent and get everybody to work together towards something positive is something that we try to do on a daily basis for sure. Okay. And working in interfaith communities is a good way to do that. And I think that one thing that I've been tried to do when I do interfaith work is to be real clear about where I'm coming from. Humanism is a word not known by everybody. They don't always realize that it's separate from theistic approaches. And so I try to be clear about that. This is who I am. This is what we represent. And if we're welcome at the table, we're happy to be there.
Good, good. And where do you see your organization going, or what is your desire to see your organization going within the next 5 years in regards to its mission, vision, and outreach?
I'm hoping that in the coming years that we're going to experience, you know, significant growth. Everybody would like that, I suppose. But what we really want to be is more of a seat at the table. I want to get to the point where politicians can be clear about who they are and what they believe, if they're non-theist, if they're humanist, if they're agnostic or atheist, without that being the end of their campaign. Right now in Congress, we don't have a single member of Congress who admits to not believing in God, even though we know there's at least 24 of them that don't believe in God.
Right.
And so how do we get to the point from where we are now to there? I think part of it is just laying the groundwork and showing that you can come out and be clear about who you are, and it won't affect the people who care about you and put you in office in the first place. You know, Representative Pete Stark from California, for instance, who was the last open non-theist in Congress, he announced that, and he was reelected with about 75% of the vote. Didn't affect his campaign at all, although he was south of San Francisco. It was a very liberal area. But then he was, redistricting happened, and he went up against another very popular Democrat. That's why he's not there now. But I think that if people knew that it wouldn't affect their election hopes as much as they seem to fear it would, that we'd get more people being open about it.
Okay. And if our viewers want to find out more about the American Humanist Association, what's the best way to get that information?
Oh, you can go online. Our website's AmericanHumanist.org, or check us out on Facebook or Twitter or whatever is convenient for you. We're on all those social media.
Okay. And our final question, what do you do for fun?
Well, I do a number of different things for fun. I go out and enjoy I'm a bit of a foodie, and I go around town a lot, enjoying different things in D.C. and as well as other places around the country I go. I like sports. I watch football and hockey and things like that.
Okay. Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Roy, for coming on the program. We appreciate it, and you provided a lot for us in regards to learning more about humanism, so we do appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today.
Oh, thanks for having me on and for giving humanism a voice as well.
Sure, you're welcome. And we will be right back with Interfaith Connections. Welcome back to Interfaith Connections. I am your host, Jackie Fuller. For our next segment, We are featuring an organization that is starting pretty much a new movement across the world. And we are honored to have His Holiness, Younus AlGohar, co-founder of Messiah Foundation International. Mr. AlGohar, thank you for coming on the show today.
My pleasure.
Now, can you share with our audience some background information about yourself?
My name is Younus AlGohar, and I come from England. I live in London, and I go across the world preaching the message of peace and love, tolerance, spirituality. That's my message.
Your message? Okay. And what inspired you to get involved and create your organization?
My master, His Divine Grace, Lord Rariaz Gaur Shahi, who comes from Pakistan. Pakistan is a country where there is so much extremism and fanaticism, and when my master spoke of love and peace, as a young student, I was inspired by his teachings, and I joined him. And then he spiritualized my life, changed the way I think, changed my thought process, and I realized there is so much hatred in this world, especially coming from religious circle. So we established this organization to raise the awareness of the value of love, peace and harmony, and the fact that the entire humanity is one creation of God, and we should all love each other and learn to be tolerant and spiritualize our life and respect humanity.
And where are your offices located? Is it pretty much in the UK, or are you across the world in different continents?
Yes, across the world in different continents. Our headquarters are in England, UK, and we have offices in Australia, Japan, South Korea, Sri Lanka, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Canada, America, and some other countries in Europe like Greece.
Okay. And what is the process for an individual to get involved with your movement?
There are many things that Messiah Foundation International is doing. The first thing is to raise the awareness of spiritual knowledge, and this is because spiritual knowledge is the medicine which can heal hearts and let us learn to love each other and learn to love God. So we're raising awareness of the importance and significance of spiritual knowledge. Number two, we're striving to wipe out hatred from minds which have been radicalized, and short-sighted people, especially among Muslims, who have adopted radicalized ways and they've become intolerant. We're trying to attract the Muslim youth to learn spiritual knowledge and also understand the true interpretation of the book of Quran, and should also understand the message of Prophet Muhammad of Islam. And we're successfully doing it. And we're also heralding the news of second coming of Lord Jesus Christ and his role in the future. And also we're publicizing miraculously manifested images of Lord Rariaz Gaur Shahi and Lord Jesus Christ on the surface of the moon and Mars. So these are a few things that we are doing across the world. And a lot of people from different religions are joining, and they're learning to be tolerant and peaceful.
And what has the feedback been so far with the work your organization has done?
Feedback is really good, especially from people who are fed up with the religions. However, there are always some fractions every religion who are very extremist and fanatic, obviously they will not approve of what we're doing. So there's nothing like a good news from them. However, those who love peace and tolerance and interfaith harmony, they really appreciate it, and they are supporting us a lot all over the world.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned with interfaith work, that is, I noticed a key component of what you do and your logo and so forth. Have there been communities that have been more receptive to your message and your work in, I guess, in the interfaith circles and interfaith work versus others may have been harder to tap into, to get involved?
Actually, how people react to this message, it depends on what country you live in, and the country, how much freedom of speech is offered in those countries. So when we're here in Europe and in America especially, and Canada, we see freedom of speech, and the government and the society respects everybody's opinion and their freedom. A lot of good positive response come from these countries like Canada, United States of America, Australia, and Japan, and England.
Okay. It's interesting because I would say Canada is more known as being, I guess, secular, more, I guess, a secular mindset versus here. I think it's more pockets, like in the South you may have more of the conservative.
Toronto is more open.
Toronto, okay.
Toronto is more open.
Okay.
In comparison to Quebec. Montreal.
But it seems like it's interesting just to see like the differences between the two countries that are like right next door to each other.
Yeah.
So I find that fascinating. And I'm just curious, how does one obtain the title or the spiritual title that you have as His Holiness?
There is no hierarchy, spiritual hierarchy, or any spiritual establishment which would confer on me with this title. It's the love of the people who come and listen to me, and they support my cause. Out of love, they say it. And I don't really get offended. And I allow them to say it if it doesn't hurt me.
Okay. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because also I know with some people, I mean, and this is rooted in their tradition, they may hear your title and it's not familiar with what they're accustomed to.
Yeah.
And as a new spiritual movement, they may have hesitation or reservation. How do you handle situations like that, and what do you do to counter that fear that comes about when they're learning about you for the first time? What is the approach to counter the fears?
I don't really care about this title. It's what some people may use.
Right.
But personally, I never use this title, and I have no desire to use such titles. I'm a simple man, and I feel good that I'm doing something to benefit humanity.
Okay.
And if anything comes between me and humanity and stops me from benefiting them, then obviously I would never use such a title.
Interesting. Let's see what else to think about. Oh, the responses globally. You had also mentioned in reading on your website about healings taking place and so forth.
Yes.
How have those occurred? Do they occur at your events? I know for some people they experience healings looking at pictures. What has been the response from those who have experienced those type of healings from your work, and what has been that response, knowing that people lives have been improved because of the work of your work your group is doing?
Spiritual healing is like, you know, a booming business in the world. Some people sell this kind of stuff, but our master, His Divine Grace, Lord Rarias Gohar Shahi, when he delegated me to carry out spiritual healings, he empowered my heart and said, you must serve humanity, but make sure you do not receive any benefits in return. do not charge anybody. The moment you take a single penny from anybody, this will stop. You will not be able to heal anybody. So our services of spiritual healings are for the entire humanity, and it's completely free.
Wow.
And we're doing it all over the world, and many thousand people have benefited from this spiritual healing.
So you don't not even donation. You can't take donations.
A donation towards the cause of this mission is accepted.
Okay.
But we do not charge anything.
We don't charge. Okay. Okay. Because I know I always have to make sure I have that clear.
You know, sometimes people say, "Okay, you must donate this money."
Yeah.
That's a different case.
Okay.
We don't do that.
Okay.
It's just phraseology.
Right.
Yeah, they're giving donations, but sometimes some people say, "Okay, you must donate."
Yeah, and there is that difference.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, with young people, how are they involved in your organization? Like, how do they find out about your organization and the works of your group? And how have they been receptive? Are they involved, or do they just, like kids do, follow on Facebook, Twitter? How are they connected with your movement?
There is a lot for the young generation to be taking part in what we are doing. It's not a simple slogan of spirituality. Mm-hmm. What we are teaching is spiritual sciences. You must have heard about mesmerism, hypnotism, mm-hmm. telepathy, all these things, right. And how people get involved and how much interest do they develop. It's because when they do certain things, they tend to have a little bit of power in them. With telepathy, you have this ability to read minds of others, and with hypnotism, you have some kind of ability developed in you. In a similar way, what we are teaching is spiritual sciences, and we're teaching them how to enlighten all the souls inside you. And when the souls inside you are awakened and enlightened, you begin to have power of love, and power of harmonizing yourself with the humanity, and power of getting into the unseen, and power to foresee things. And when the youth experience such things, they obviously become involved because they're feeling it, right. And they're experiencing it. So a lot of youth is inclined towards the spiritual sciences.
Okay, because I know in this country, and I mentioned this with our last guest, that people are moving away from religion, away from God, identifying themselves with the religion of their parents. And with movements like yours, or even people on their own, it's definitely a transition where the old generations are, again, like I said, concerned about children and grandchildren not following that path, versus maybe someone who can find a way to encourage that child or that young adult to find their own path. In your experience, has young people come from that perspective, and once they got involved with your organization, they were like, okay, I like this better than what I was hearing before?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, religions now are not delivering what they were meant to. All over the world, it's not about one religion. Almost every religion has lost its spiritual system. People go to church, synagogues, mosques, and temples, and they see politics going on there, and nothing divine is offered. Their spiritual quest is not quenched. Their spiritual thirst is not quenched. And the questions are not answered. So the religions have failed today to address the issues of this modern era. And people are becoming weary of illogical restraints of some of the religions. This is a sin, this is bad, this is this, this is that. They're wanting something real that can bring them closer to divine, supreme power. And today there is no religion which is doing its job And this is because the spiritual system in all these religions have destroyed. Now, because there is a gap between people and God, and that gap was to be filled by the spiritual system, therefore people are disconnected from God. People keep praying to God and He doesn't answer their prayers. People think God is not listening to them. But the thing is, you are not able to make God hear what you want to say to Him. And this is because there is a gap, communication gap. And this communication gap is the result of lack of a spiritual system. If you were spiritually connected to God, you would say one word and God would hear it. This is why people are becoming fed up with religions and people are distancing themselves from God. However, once a spiritual connection is established with God and people are able to feel Him inside their heart, inside their emotions, they will start loving God again.
Okay. And where do you see your organization going or growing within the next 5 years?
This world is full of people who are playing at the hands of fake spiritualists, fake religious leaders, and some people like fanaticism, extremism. In the wake of all these, our pace is really slow, because you will not find every other man willing to love God, willing to love all humanity. So we're getting there. Okay. We're struggling. I mean, striving. And I'm not going to make any claims, but we're striving. Okay. And I hope with all the struggle that we are carrying out, we will get somewhere someday.
Okay. And for our audience, if they want to find out more information about the Messiah Foundation International, what's the best way to get
We're available on internet, our website.
And what's the address?
AlGohar.us.
Okay.
And all the information is available on our website. Telephone numbers, Facebook address, Twitter address, everything.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for providing that and providing a new perspective here on our show. We do appreciate you coming on, and please keep in touch with your progress as you travel around the world with your endeavors. We do appreciate you coming on the show today. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And we will return with Interfaith Connections.
Welcome to Cook It Safe Challenge, where teams compete to make the right decisions about safe food preparations. Our challenge in this round, read and follow packaged cooking instructions and use a food thermometer. Let's see how our teams are doing so far. Team 1.
We just got 100 points.
We separated our raw food from our cooked food.
Team 2.
We got a 100-point green card for proper hand washing before our meal prep.
We've reached a critical safety point in the challenge. Okay, Team 1, let's check this out. Uh-oh, not a safe internal temperature for those hamburgers. That puts everyone at high risk for foodborne illness. You get a red card, undercooked. Always read and follow the packaged cooking instructions and use a food thermometer. Let's see how our winning team cooked it safe and avoided problems.
Well, I just kept focused on the 4 food safety steps: clean, separate, cook, and chill.
And we followed the packaged cooking instructions and took the temperature.
Can you cook it safe?
Welcome back to Interfaith Connections. I am your host, Jackie Fuller. In our final segment, we are featuring Miss Sandra Lee Bell, who is an educator, singer, and dramatist. And we are so fortunate to have her on the program today. Thank you, Sandra, for coming on the program.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thank you. Sure. Thank you for having me. And first, I want to say I commend you for all the wonderful work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Now, can you share with our audience some background information about yourself, Ms. Bell?
I'd be delighted. I am originally from Massachusetts. I am a retired educator, middle school, for 18 years. And during that time, I started and advised a multicultural club, which was performance-based. And so in terms of dealing with embracing other cultures, the youngsters had an opportunity to express themselves through step movement, through drama, and through the selection of appropriate music. And so with that, I decided to move to Virginia here with my daughter, who was recruited here by the government, and they started a family. I retired early and came here, and I've been grandmothering for the last 6 years, and now I'm on my own, so to speak. And I started working part-time teaching music, because music has always been a part of my life. Music and movement and dance and in theater as a way of expressing myself and actually healing myself as well, I might add.
And can you elaborate more or go into detail about those elements that inspire you to do those various things as an artist?
Well, I would say life's happenings and life's occurrences. My mother had a gifted voice without any kind of training, and I've not really had any formal training necessarily either. It's just something that has been innate, and I'm blessed and feel graced, you know, that it is one of the gifts. So whenever something would happen in my life, I would you know, just pray, you know, and what would happen often would be a song. A song would come to me. And so it was a way, as I say, of healing for myself. And then I would sing, you know, for others, and other people would respond as well and feel moved and touched, as they said. So I went to Los Angeles some years ago to make my way in the music business, and I found out that Los Angeles was not really so much the city of the angels. And so, but life taught me there that that wasn't my path. So I came back, you know, to Massachusetts, and I have a beautiful daughter. And so with that, I was involved in community theater, expressing, you know, the African American history through song and through drama, and was involved with a troupe, a gospel troupe there for 13 years. And I was always in community theater one way or the other, you know, and I was inspired, but I was also giving as well, in terms of inspiring, motivating, and having fun.
Okay. So what has your support system been like with your career, with family and friends? How have they encouraged you and supported you with your work?
Strongly. One person in particular, well, my baby sister, who passed from colon cancer at 27, there was a time when I didn't want to sing because of what I saw her go through, and she said to me, never stop singing, always sing. And then my sister, who's 2 years younger than I, recently passed from cancer as well, and she was my staunch supporter. She would always say, when you sing, something happens inside. You know, you need to do that. She goes, you need to find Stevie Wonder. That's what she said. You want to meet Stevie Wonder, she said. You know? But I said, whether I meet Stevie Wonder or not, you know what I'm saying? I love his spirit, and I always connect with those artists, you know, who are coming from that authentic place, who choose music that is uplifting and inspiring and motivating to touch the lives of others.
Now, with your travels, with your work, have you had that opportunity to come close to any celebrities?
Yes, when I was in Los Angeles, I worked at KNBC Studios, and I met some of the so-called entertainment greats, so to speak. I mean, for me personally, I've never been one who kind of feeds into this title thing. You know, I always felt, you know, because who was there? Red Fox was at the time, Nancy Wilson, you know, and a few others. I mean, to me, they were just like, you know, like you and I. And I used to say, you know what? I appreciate the man who takes my garbage out and does things like that. I mean, they're just as important to me. You know, so I think sometimes we, as a society, we elevate those who are before the camera or who are in entertainment. You know, I've never been one for that. So, you know, I had the opportunity Nancy Wilson, yes, but Aretha Franklin was always someone that I, resonated with. And I did have a chance to see her, but it was at a time when she was going through a rough time in her life too, though, that business, is very challenging, can be very challenging. I saw that, and I decided, that wasn't for me.
Okay. Now, changing back to the spiritual singing side, faith communities, do you just sing in one particular faith community, or are you open to singing from a mosque to a synagogue? Where have you been invited to perform?
Well, back in Massachusetts, I would sing at, various churches, whatever the denomination. It didn't matter to me, and in nursing homes as well. And here, since living here, I share music at a church I fellowship, for the most part, Unity of Fairfax. I've sung at Tacoma Park Chapel in Silver Springs. I'm currently going to be talking to the Unity of DC, because there was a woman who heard me sing at a festival, and she said, she was from the DC church, and she said, you need to sing. You need to come and sing at the DC church. I went, oh, yeah, it's okay. So I'm at a point now where I'm stepping out. I'm being called to step out more, because I think we all are with our gifts, because we all are gifted. And I'm going to be working with doing some workshops on voice. Not that you have to be a singer, but to understand that our voice, our inner voice, we're being called to connect with that divinity inside of us, that voice. So there's a technique called toning that I learned when I studied sound medicine in Los Angeles several years ago. And my trainer and mentor, a wonderful person, has healed himself several times using toning, using music, his own voice. So I'm going to be doing some workshops, as I say, on experiencing one's own voice through different types of tones.
Oh, nice. So in your work, where do you feel most connected when you perform? Is it on the stage, in the shower? I won't say in the shower, but more intimate places, or?
That I'm open to that. Just like
okay.
I'm open to going wherever I'm called to share, because it's all about giving of what is coming through. A woman said this to me not too long ago. She said, "When I saw you and I heard you, it was like you were channeling." And I received that. I said, "Ooh, I like that." So I'd like to think that wherever I am, I can be in my own little spot, and if I'm feeling low and something, and I start, and I'll just, get quiet, and then I'll start singing or just humming or toning a couple of, tones. So it can be anywhere, whenever the spirit just comes on you, so to speak.
All right. Now, you said you want to share something with our audience that you've been working on?
A little something, because I do love not just the song, but I do love prose. Okay. So I love doing the theater. So some years ago, I studied the ancient Egyptian spiritual wisdom with a wonderful, wonderful professor in Boston, and we had an assignment where we had to relate to a certain aspect of divinity, and the one that I was given was called the concrete knowledge and the science. And so we had to do something creative with it and express the positive qualities of that concrete knowledge and science, and then the unskilled, I'll call it unskilled instead of a weakness. I prefer that term. So I came up with, when I went into, a little meditation, I had, for the strong side, I had a song, which I'm not going to do that one though. But I did come up with a short poem, which I kind of did like a little rap. I put a little music behind it, and so I don't have the music behind it, but I wanted to share that because it talks about the science of the mind. Okay. And in this short poem, there are certain words and terms that connect with the unskilled way of being solid and balanced in knowledge. and in the science of the mind. For me, there is no separation, in terms of spiritual and science and, the physical. It's all one. So I'd like to share that, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
But it's called the science of the mind. Science of the mind. I'm not a rapper per se, but I'm just going to just give it a go. So it says, you think you know the science of my mind? I doubt it. Think again. You think you win? You say, I think and think and think some more. Rigid as a stone. Well, stones have their own level of thought formation, life patterns to tell. You say, I create overtures, dramatic details of over-analyses, of over-details, over-specializing in ultra-reasoning. You think you know the science of my mind? I doubt it. Think again. You think you win? You call me skeptic? A dangling doubter? How insensitive of you, don't you think? No measure of proof do you have. How critical-minded you are. How narrow your focus of observation. I will not respond to your social and emotional ineptness, your awkward response to my way of thinking. You think you know the science of my mind? I doubt it. Think again. Think again and again. You win? Who wins? My response? What a lack of magnetism. So that was just a response, a creative response, and we all have that creativity. That's the thing of it. I think we're being called to be more creative, because it's there. We have it. We all have it. So part of what I try to do in the songs that I select to sing, or the things that come out of my mind, the unspoken word, because the word is powerful, and that's why I love sound, because it's vibration, and that's what we are. So I try to connect with the highest in the unspoken word, in my mind and my thoughts, that which comes out of my mind into speech, that which I sing as well. And so with that, I'd like to share just a little bit of a song. Do we have time to do that?
You got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, just a couple of minutes of this little song. Just quickly, a little history on this, because there's always a story. Mm-hmm. I love stories around the songs. I received this song in a pool. A week before, a 16-year-old boy, who was the son of a friend, drowned with some friends swimming. And I heard after the fact that he was talking with his twin sisters, and he was talking about death. And they said, don't talk about death. What are you talking about death for? He goes, I speak about it because I'm not afraid of it. I know in my heart where I'm going. And so when I heard that, but in that pool, when something came over me, as it has done before. Something comes over me. That spirit comes inside me, and I say, okay, what's going to happen? You're going to give me something. And this song came to me. For me, this is a message from this boy to us. And basically, a little bit of the song says this. Sometimes in life, there are things that happen we may never understand. Never, never, never understand. Situations that bring sorrow, suffering, heartache, and overwhelming pain. We may ask of God, why me? Why is this happening to me? And what did I ever do that was so wrong to bring such hurt and misery? But just hold on, keep the faith, change your mind and free your soul. And open up your spirit to God's holy healing love, to God's holy, holy healing love. something like that.
That was amazing. Okay, now people want to know how they can get in touch with you.
Well, you know, right now, as it says, I'm stepping out a little more. I don't have new cards as yet. I don't have a website. As some of my friends say, girl, you got to get a website. I went, okay, well. But I do have, you know, I mean, I'm approachable through my, I'm a sound person, so I call me. I like to talk. I like to connect with your voice.
What we'll do is we'll have people go on our website.
Yay!
And we will direct them to you.
Oh, I love you.
We don't want to give your phone number out.
I love you. I love you. Thank you. And I would love that. I would love that.
Okay. That's amazing. Thank you. I was like, I love it. So where do you see yourself in the next few years with your talents?
Well, according to some of what some of my friends say, some of my meditations, some of my readings say, that it's time for me to step out more. That I'm going to be traveling, that I'm very much teaching nonviolence as an educator, so I want to use the voice and use, you know, prose and drama, you know, that inspires and motivates, and just be open and willing to go wherever people would like to hear me. But I do see myself traveling. I do see myself traveling because I want to touch more people.
Okay.
And I want to travel.
Sure. I was going to ask what fun things you do, but it sounds like your life is fun. Any one thing that stands out?
Well, I teach early learners right now music, so I love doing that. But I love to dance, you know, and I do love theater. I do love theater. So I see myself doing more with theater and reaching people. As you know, it's a marvelous mode. But I had one of my students say to me, you know, earlier this year in one of my classes, he goes, Miss Bell, you know, I think we should be on TV. I went, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. Who knows?
Well, awesome. Well, I definitely want to invite you back for the holiday program we're planning to do.
I would love to. I would love to, Jackie. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I definitely think your vibe will be like perfect for that episode.
All right. All right. And thank you so much again. You're a bright light.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, if you want to get in contact with Ms. Bell, you have to contact us on the website, which is www.interfaithconnections.squarespace.com. Go to our Contact Us page and put in your request there. We are also on Twitter at www.twitter.com/IFC TV show. And hopefully you enjoy this program. Please provide your feedback. We always appreciate it. And we hope you tune in for the next edition. Have a good day and take care. Bye-bye.